Okay, I think now's as good a time as any. Hello, good evening. It is I, Benry Paints. It's 7:09. I'm a little later than I wanted to be, but that's okay. Gonna go ahead and do some painting. I've got some clan rats that really need to go ahead and get finished up because I'm tired of looking at them in a non-finished state. And I will be completely honest, after seeing them, the other 20 that I've done, now that they're all done being like finished and stained and whatnot, I think I'm pretty happy with how that looks. And actually, I'll be right back. I'm gonna grab one just as kind of a sample. Okay, I'm back. Went ahead and grabbed a clan rat just so I had an idea of what I was doing for this stream. Hello. So, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. And to do so, we're gonna go ahead and turn off the starting soon, turn off the starting soon image, turn on the main camera, and hello, here I am. So, let's go ahead and get working. What we have right now are these guys. This is what he looks like. This is what we've got on him so far. This one, I actually couldn't reach inside to grab or to dry brush the inner parts of his body because they are so well covered. Let's see, what's going on here? Oh, that's what's going on. It's just super zoomed. Let's see if that'll snap into place. There we go. But what I plan on doing through some judicious use of speed paints is getting him to look more like this guy. So hopefully I will be able to get there using nothing but speed paints. And honestly, I think he turned out pretty good given how just kind of disdainful I've been about speed paints in general. So we'll see how it goes. Good evening, Darkvolt. How are you doing? I basically just started. And right now, I'm kind of just looking at this and figuring out how I want to approach it. I think I'm gonna kind of do them the exact same way I did these guys. Hey Stroop, how's it going? You just woke up from a nap? Good for you, man. Napping is something we should do more often, you know? This is what my last one looked like when I finished him. I'm not sure, will he focus? Can he focus? There he is. And I'm gonna try and get these ones to look similar. I did a slightly different approach. Instead of just airbrushing them, I went ahead and dry brushed them. To look like this, so we'll see if I'm able to replicate that. And to start off, we're going to go ahead and use some Army Painter Speed Paint again, and we're going to try and replicate our previous formula. Because adding that nasty wash actually did a lot for improving my opinion on speed paints. And it just kind of goes back to that thing I like to say, which is, you know, trust the ugly phase. Pretty much all paint jobs are going to go through an ugly phase, and it would just do you good to, you know, trust it. Let it happen. So let's go ahead and get some on there. And let's see how this looks, because I know what's going to happen with this is it's going to show up real bright against the gray and the white dry brush, and hopefully by having some of the parts shaded in more, shaded in darker, it'll show up working on your Nurgle Blood Bowl models. Very cool. You saw the Space Marine 2 DLC promo video. Yeah, I'm pretty darn excited for it. Like, I kind of knew a lot of that was happening because they had already laid out the timeline, but seeing it in action and seeing it in motion was pretty neat. I was not aware that the new enemy that they were going to add into the game was going to be a Hierophant Bio-Titan. So I'm curious how they're going to play that out in game. Is that going to be like a major boss that's part of the next area? Is that going to be something you're primarily supposed to avoid as it wreaks havoc across the stage? I don't know. And honestly, that's kind of the fun for me, is knowing that they're going to have something that big and terrifying to deal with at some point. And in terms of the Blood Bowl models, congratulations. I hope you're having fun working on them, because I think the Blood Bowl models are just, again, it's hard to say that they're some of Games Workshop's best, because it seems like every model Games Workshop makes is part of Games Workshop's best. So I'm not really saying much by saying that, but I think they're super cool. I think I showed them last time, the ones I had, and you know, that's only one way to do them. There's so many ways to make those Blood Bowl models look good. And I gotta say, I think it might just be the new batch of paint that they're doing for the second speed paints, but I actually am liking the coverage a whole lot better on this black to gray to white dry brush than I did the first set. Like, I do feel like there's actually some depth to it, and I think that's pretty neat. I hope we get to somehow include some heavy machinery to take it down. That would be cool. Like, you have to activate a repulsor executioner or something, or you have to coordinate in with some, with what the heck is it called? With the Thunderhawk gunship to do like a bombing run while it's in an area. Honestly, I beat Space Marine 2 finally, and the ending was fine for what it was, I guess. It was not my favorite ending of any game I'd played. I didn't really like the fact that it really felt like you walk around while everything happens around you. Because I didn't really feel like I had a whole lot of agency at that last part, but I think it's because they were going more for spectacle than anything. You're building before you paint rather than paint on sprue. That's interesting. I have a friend who started doing paint on sprue because for them it was easier. Godhammer Land Raider or Baneblade, that would be super cool. So good luck with that, because what really helped me with not painting them on sprue is that it kind of gives you an idea of where light's supposed to go, and that helps a lot if you want to get that kind of volume. But it'll be interesting to see where they go from there, or where your minis go from there, Stroop. So good luck with the new painting method. But yeah, I'm hoping at some point that they do what they did in Space Marine 1, and in the multiplayer they have like a dreadnought mode where a team can pilot a dreadnought for a certain period of time. Henry paints more like Ragnarok. Rawr. Rawr. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it, but there's a really funny video, a YouTube poop that someone made of Paul Heyman trying to say Brock Lesnar's name from the WWE, and he does this thing where he like really rolls out the BR, so it becomes not Brock Lesnar but Brock Lesnar, and it's all for emphasis and theatrics, but someone kind of kept reversing and restarting it, so it just sounded like he was making really loud burping noises, and it makes me laugh. So yeah, if you guys have a chance, I think it's called YouTube Poop Brock Kills the Undertaker, and I don't find most of it funny, but that particular bit had me rolling and had me in tears because of how just incredibly expressive Paul Heyman's voice is. Yeah, I don't know how to feel about his behavior during ECW's era in terms of how he treated his wrestlers, because I don't know the full story, but I think post ECW Heyman has been one of the best things for pro wrestling since then, because he's done some very amazing things creatively, and I think that's super cool. No, I think that's all the green this guy needs. And yeah, doing the dry brushing and giving it kind of that more powdery look has definitely textured this to look a lot more like fabric, and I really kind of dig that. Ric Flair and Jay Lethal promo on TNA. Yeah, that one's really good too, where Jay Lethal is doing like a dead-on perfect Ric Flair impersonation, and they start doing the woo thing at each other like they're two dogs barking across a yard. It's very good. And I will die on this hill. I've made a habit of saying this when I talk to people, but pro wrestling is just redneck anime, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, it's a bunch of larger-than-life characters fighting, solving all of their problems through fighting, and it doesn't always make sense, but a huge part of it is the audience buy-in. You know what I mean? Because it's like with anything else, if WWF's just anime without any filler. Exactly, and that's what's great about it, though. It's live stage plays that are just ridiculous and over the top, and audiences can get invested in these silly little stories and enjoy the athleticism of the people performing in front of you, right? I also believe that in a lot of ways, pro wrestling, especially the way that WWE does wrestling, is probably the closest connection to Shakespeare that we have. And that's weird to say, because Shakespeare was a master of prose and of language in ways that the WWE is clearly not. But again, simple storylines that pretty much anyone from any walk of life can follow, larger than life characters who are basically pastiches so that they're quick and easy to identify, lowbrow humor, you know, just all the basic trappings of a good story, all played out in front of you on a stage. And up until real recently, it was fairly affordable and typically a thing for the lower class, right? Economically, it was definitely not a thing that the wealthy indulged in. I think I accidentally painted up some... Actually, no, is he wearing... I guess he is, but it's just kind of awkwardly placed on here. Eyebrow humor, yeah. I mean, the house shows are still somewhat affordable to go to. I actually looked up the pricing to get tickets, and even though they were for last year in November, and they weren't the best seats ever, it was only like $45 a ticket. So, you know, I'm not going to appear on Monday Night Raw or anything, but if I want to go to a show and watch WWE performers, it's, you know, $45 a ticket, which is less than a video game. Yeah, if you're going to like the big events, then yeah, they want a lot of money. But if you're just going to a house show, it's a lot more affordable. And actually, one of my coworkers is really into WWE and into pro wrestling for kind of the same reasons I am, in that they appreciate the performance of it. And when they found out that I was into it, they were like, "Okay, we're going to a show the next time they come to our area," because their partner didn't really grok it and wasn't too fond of it, and now they have someone to appreciate it with. And I was pretty excited because I talked to my wife about it, and she's like, "Yeah, sure, I'll go." So that'll be kind of neat. You prefer AEW shows, more of an action in the ring kind of guy? Yeah, and I think it's great that AEW exists because, you know, there's a million different flavors of wrestling, and the WWE has a very specific flavor. And so having an alternative to that people can watch and enjoy and appreciate is really freaking cool to me. Because they definitely are more about wrestlers with a high work rate and really telling the story in the ring. I haven't watched a whole lot of AEW, but it seems like more of the highlights I see of their show have to do with the action happening in the ring versus like the build up to the action happening in the ring. And the WWE for the longest time has been about, you know, setting up storylines and doing promos and making characters through how they talk and interact with each other versus what they do in the ring, though that is also a big part of it. So having a company like AEW that gives, you know, fans of wrestling a completely different flavor of the art is really neat. You know what I mean? And it's not even like it's the B show to the WWE's A show. From what I understand, they're doing pretty well. And I think it's cool that they're not seen as like the lesser product, just the different product. Sorry for going on that tangent about wrestling, about, you know, big sweaty men smacking the crap out of each other and being violent. Let's talk about little dirty rats being violent and smacking the crap out of each other. They also build stories via the internet. Yeah, see, they're using more modern methods to do so. And Nacho Libre, I haven't watched that movie in a long time, and I remember not really liking it the first time I saw it. But I think I need to give it another watch because it popped back up on like a Twitter feed, and something they noticed about it was that like the humor doesn't really punch down in like cruel and mocking ways in the same way a lot of stuff from that era did. And so while I might have the humor might not have landed for me at the time, I'd kind of like to give it a rewatch and give it a second chance because Jack Black is pretty cool. And I love the fact that he worked really hard to get good enough at wrestling to be a believable character in that movie, you know? And I will be completely honest, doing the quote-unquote slap chop method on these minis has kind of sold me on these paints because the depth that I'm getting across these guys with just the green is so much more satisfying than the flat color that I was getting with them the first time around when I did it. I don't know how many of you remember, but the first pass that I did this over, I was pretty nonplussed by it because everything was just kind of super one note, you know? And that's not the case right now. I'm seeing all sorts of depth of color. I'm seeing all sorts of shadowing happening. I think doing this actually sold me on these speed paints, and I think I am going to keep them and use them for projects like this where I need a lot of things painted really quickly, because this is turning out pretty cool. I like this. You love your pro acryl, but the colors don't dry how I expect them to. I only have a couple pro acryl, and it's going to take a lot to convince me to not like, or to move on from those, because I've been pretty happy with the ones I have. I feel like they've done a great job of making my minis a lot more vibrant without making them look cartoony. And I'm pretty down with that. But yeah, I'll get to see more how they behave, how different colors behave when I migrate entirely to them like I plan to. Yeah, you love them, but you're not good enough for them to be worth it to me? I don't know about that. I think what you've done is you've just given yourself a really good tool to grow into, you know? And now that you know how they behave, if you decide to start branching out to Vallejo or AK Interactive or any of the other colors like Too Thin Coats, you're eventually going to be better at using those because of your experience using Pro Acryl. So, all in all, it's going to be fine. I mean, that's kind of what happened when I went back to Army Painter, is the fact that I was using like Vallejo and Citadel meant that I became better with Army Painter. You will keep getting them because they're cheaper than anything else, because you only need like 5 colors for your Tyranids. If you get a second army, then you'll journey out. Yeah, that seems like a good idea. Keep consistent with the one army, and then try a different paint with a different one. I'm counting down the days when I can finally kind of trade out my my paints for a full Pro Acryl line, because I kind of plan on going all in on Pro Acryl and not looking back. The Vallejo paints have served me well for a long time, but I'm kind of over them, as bad as that is to say. I'm ready to move on to Pro Acryl, because Pro Acryl has been consistently good to me. So I will see. Of course, I'm kind of in a weird frozen spot right now because I think I mentioned it on stream already, but my paycheck got a little bit more of a cut into it because I finally signed up for like my health benefits and whatnot, and they're oh man, that's supposed to be a brown. Okay, that's fine. They're taking a little bit more out of my paycheck than I anticipated, so I thought I had some free money, and I don't. All my money is going to be tied up into bills and the like. So unfortunately, some of my extracurricular purchases are going to have to wait a little longer, but that's okay. Maybe one day you'll repaint your whole army to look nice but good enough for the table. See, my thing with that is you can probably take your current paint job and just touch it up, you know? Midwinter Minis actually has a great video on that, where he takes some models that he painted quickly so that they would be done, and he's like, okay, now let's take them from tabletop standard to tabletop plus standard. And obviously Guy from Midwinter Minis has been doing it for a long time, but nothing he does is like super challenging or super difficult. And of course he models it brilliantly. So if you ever want some inspiration on how to like give your models a glow up, he's a good one to watch. You started that way too. Yeah, mine are more like it has 3 colors. Yeah, that's tabletop ready. If you have 3 colors, then, and I think it's a base, Like, you've based your mini and you've got 3 colors. That's tabletop ready. So if you've got 3 colors, you're already most of the way there. And I think there's a lot you can do with that from there. That doesn't require you to strip the minis. Now, of course, if you want to strip your minis and try again, more power to you, because I do that every 2 seconds, as evidenced by my Torgarodon. But if you don't want to do that, you shouldn't have to, you know? You took a sponge and slapped color on them? See, I think that's a smart idea for Termagants. I think that makes a whole lot of sense because they're a horde army. You're not really going to need to look for fine details on them. Now, honestly, what I want to see is the mad lad who meticulously painted every Termagant to be like tabletop plus or parade ready or something crazy like that. Now, I guess to some extent, you get that when you look at some of the dioramas entered for Golden Demon, because they very clearly worked really hard to make the Termagants have the right lighting and the right amount of detail and whatnot. But I just want to see it. I want to see what it looks like, because it's got to be stunning. Like, I don't know if you guys saw, but somewhere, I think it was on Reddit or on Twitter, but there was someone who made like a tidal wave of Termagants, and at the very top of it was, I don't remember if it was supposed to be Lieutenant Titus or just a character, but it was like a Terminator that was waist deep in them, like he was at the very top of a tidal wave. And I thought that was a really cool way to use Termagants, and since I have a 3D printer, it's given me ideas for the kind of dioramas I want to create at some point. I get brave enough. Because that right now is the biggest issue, is am I brave enough to actually try and do these things? And the answer so far has been no. Like, I kind of want to give up on my Ancient Rylanor diorama and use the trophy case I bought for it to do a Gilliman versus Abaddon diorama, because I have both of those pieces and they're both well painted, and it wouldn't be too difficult to do some extra stuff with that. 3D printing endless Ripper Swarms. Exactly. Actually, if you want to see something cool, One Page Rules has their own version of Ripper Swarms, and they're kind of horrifying because there's just so many of them piled on to the base. Let's see if I can find it. They just called Ripper Swarms on here. Did I change the names? Swarm? Yeah, there we go. Let me see. Starting soon image. Nope, that's fine where it wants to be. Window capture, swarm. Here we go. So yeah, these are One Page Rules Ripper Swarms. And I feel like they do a better job of capturing just how many there's supposed to be at any given moment. And so I don't know. I think it's cool. I printed and painted these so that I had at the time 1,000 points of Tyranids to go along with my my Leviathan box set. So yeah, I thought they were cool. I like them. I also like how fast this is going because, again, I guess it's because I've done it once already and I'm not anxious about it, but painting on the screen is going a whole lot faster than I thought it was going to. And I think it looks a whole lot better on the kind of chalky, textured look that the dry brushing gave it. So I'm pretty jazzed with how this is going. Current Ripper model is junk, but they came free with your Termagants. Yeah, I wouldn't say they were junk. I think it's just that I think I was expecting there to be more on them. So the fact that there is in the One Page Rules version makes me happy. Like, I don't think Games Workshop has really released a bad model recently. I don't love him, but I even think like the new Kotiaz model isn't half bad. Though a lot of people really don't like the new Inquisitor Kotiaz model. And I get why. He's definitely a lot clumsier looking than the previous one. But I still don't think he's a bad model. You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm happy that the company's doing well. Seeing how Ripper Swarms are just a particle in Space Marine 2 makes me think of diorama possibilities, with maybe making a few flat models on the ground and making some quick molds for them out of oven-baked clay. That would be really neat. The Norn Assimilator Emissary should have been bigger. I don't know. I've never seen it in person, and I don't know what its scale is, so I can't talk on that. But I do think the model is beautiful and incredibly well designed. Like, that's one of my biggest problems with Tyranids, is that because I haven't seen a lot of the models in person, the scale is lost on me, you know? Because I usually assume things are a whole lot bigger than they are, and then when I get them, I'm like, man, you're smaller than I thought you were going to be. And Abaddon's actually a perfect example of that. For some reason, he always struck me as, like, monstrously big, and when I put the model together, and he was, you know, just slightly larger than a regular Terminator, it was like, oh, okay. They're taller than a Tervigon, but Tervigon are bulkier. And see, again, you might as well be speaking Esperanto at me, because I don't know how big a Tervigon is. I had this really funny moment with my wife a couple years ago, where, and I don't even remember what brought this up, but we were talking about the sizes of different residences, like places that people live in, and we were talking about like the difference between a city and a village and like a town and you know, that kind of thing. And the answers I kept getting made no freaking sense to me, because it was like, how big's a village? Oh, it's bigger than a hamlet, but it's smaller than a a town. How big's a town? Well, a town's smaller than a city, but it's bigger than a neighborhood. And it's just like, none of these help. I have no clue what these are being compared to. I have no context. And I'm getting increasingly frustrated with this, while my wife is just laughing hysterically watching me get really angry over something so silly. And she still brings it up. Every time I ask about something, she's like, oh, it's bigger than a hamlet. And then I just kind of glare at her. Okay, if we're talking true scale, the Rhino needs to be as large as the Land Raider. Land Raiders need to be like Bane Blades. Yeah, that is true. Because they were built for game scale, not true scale, right? You want Norns to be like a Titan or something, but about the size of a War Dog. Yeah, again, I'm not sure how big they are in lore. So, yeah, it would be cool if they were that big. I think that's how big they read to me when I see them on the display, is like the size of a War Dog, and I'm assuming they're not that big. Abaddon shorter than a regular... What's the proper noun? Different than that other proper noun. Yeah, exactly. It didn't help at all. And I don't know, is Abaddon smaller than a typical Space Marine? I thought because he was in Terminator armor, and he came out in, like... did he come out in 8th edition? I'm pretty sure he came out in 8th edition. Maybe 7th? I don't remember. But I was pretty sure that he was a sizable lad. And I think I just painted this poor rat's fur green. In the lore, they always make him sound short. It'd be amazing if Abaddon was a short king. Abaddon is actually the height of Danny DeVito, confirmed. That would be very funny. I don't know. I think because my mind has been so heavily influenced by the mini, and because the first time I read about Abaddon was in Horus Rising, he's always come across to me as very big. You know what I mean? As larger than life. As the second biggest Space Marine next to Horus. Or the second biggest member of the Luna Wolves next to Horus. So, I don't know. Yeah, the idea of Abaddon being like 5'6" is really funny to me. Abaddon's Terminator armor is actually just a dreadnought. That would be very silly. I think in Horus Heresy Book 1 they described him as short. I don't know. It's been a while since I've read Horus Rising, and I think at the point where they were describing the different members of the Mournival, I was still trying to get my mind around what was happening, because they had that great kind of false opening with them invading Earth, but it not really being Earth. And I also love, especially now that they've got new fans coming in, people are trying to read the Horus Heresy, and they're starting with Horus Rising, and they're almost to a man confused by the opening of that book. And it's like, good, it's working. Yeah, you were there the day Horus slew the Emperor. It's such a good book. As much grief as people were trying to give Dan Abnett for The End and the Death being a trilogy, I feel like the man has earned the right to write as much as he wants about 40k, 30k, because he's just given so much to the lore and is very clearly in love with it, you know? So he could have made The End of the Death Part 4, and it could have just been him reading or like reciting from a phone book, and it would have been fine. Abaddon can't really afford to be part of another meme, but this is my headcanon now. That's pretty good. It only took him 13 tries for him to become a meme. Yeah, he kept failing the first 12. On the 13th one, he finally got it, and that's the one where people decided he was the height of Danny DeVito. Which, speaking of, I can make happen, because I have an STL of Luna Wolves, or Sons of Horus, Abaddon, for the Heresy, and I can definitely make him the size of a regular guardsman. And he looks all angry and stuff, so it would be perfect. But yeah, I said it before, but I guess now that I kind of understand what I'm doing, and my expectations have been set because of exposure, I'm definitely nowhere near as on the fence about these speed paints as I was a couple days ago, or the last time we did this, because these look really good, and I think doing the dry brushing actually worked really well. Yeah, it's even better, Magic D-Nut, because like he's just kind of standing there, and he's got like one of those menacing poses, but I could make it so that he's standing there with his menacing pose and staring at a Space Marine's belly button, because he's not tall, and that would be really good. I actually recently saw the diorama of him and Garvio Loken fighting each other on Istvan on eBay for like $60, and I really wanted to get it, but once again, money, so I didn't. But I actually honestly don't like those models very much, though I think it's one of those things where the more I look at it, the more I'll like it, because the original Horus Heresy models have a kind of grotesqueness to them due to the limitations of the sculpting, and it honestly probably looks better than I'm giving it credit for, given that it's supposed to be, you know, antiquity and ancient legends, and so they do have to look a little funky. Who knows? Not gonna lie, the word bearers did Horus dirty. Yeah, I mean, he was just a part of the plan. The word bearers are the true primary antagonists, and they're really good at it. I do appreciate now that there's so much lore and so much fluff for the Horus Heresy, and even though a lot of it was just kind of clumsy as they were trying to feel it out, we now have a lot of very crystallized ideas of the personalities of the legions and their leaders that wasn't really there before. So the fact that it exists now and can be drawn from and contradicted and referenced and, you know, subverted is kind of cool. Word bearers are going to have to be the real big bag in the city once they rise up again. We'll see. I can't wait to see what like Demon Primarch Lorgar eventually looks like whenever they decide to make him. Because, you know, they're not planning on ending 40k anytime soon. And I actually kind of appreciate the glacial pace that the story moves at, because it means that more of it has to be your headcanon. And I feel like that's what 40k is supposed to be, is primarily your headcanon of the battles and what's happening. So they'll like give you a setting, and they'll give you some context to give your battles meaning, and then they'll just be like, okay, you and your friends figure out what happens. And I think that's brilliant, and that's what they should keep doing. And that's somewhere where I'll like strongly disagree with Chapter Master Volrak at, because he's the opposite. He wants more story progression. He wants to see more things happen in the story, and gets really frustrated when they introduce a conflict and then they leave that conflict to stew for like a set or an edition or two. But for me, it's like, the game is supposed to be about entropy, So having like actual finishes to these stories would make everything move too quickly, and would also kind of make it hard for people to really get. No, it might not be too hard for them to get engaged with it, but I just feel like having these stories marinate so people can make up their own headcanons for how they go is better. But that's me. What if Lorgar got what he... Mind you, the Emperor is all-knowing, can see the future. There's a reason in Book 1 he asked for the Iron... Imperial Fists, not the Iron Fists, to build Terra. What if Lorgar got what he wanted? Is not showing up because he's satisfied that the Emperor is treated as a god, but the Emperor returns to life and squashes out the religion aspect, he'll return in full force. That's a potentiality, but I know for a fact Lorgar is campaigning because they mentioned it in one of the books. Like they've talked about how he's got bands of word bearers out there proselytizing and converting people. So he is still out there doing his thing. He's just not as out there. And the Emperor's future sight is not perfect. In Master of Mankind, he talks about that with Endymion Ra, where like it's kind of like climbing a mountain, where he can kind of see the next few footholds, but whether or not they're secure, he's not sure. So he kind of knows how to plot a course, but he's still kind of taking shots in the dark because he's not sure where they lead. And that's like one of the few times we actually get to see the Emperor talk about it. So I'm pretty willing to trust him on that. What am I doing? Oh yeah, part of this poncho is actually brown. So the word bearers are still doing things. Lorgar is definitely still doing things. He's definitely still campaigning and converting people to chaos. But he was the first to fall to the entropy that is the chaos. And yeah, it should all be good. I like the fact that Warhammer doesn't seem like it's going to end anytime soon, because they just keep letting things stand so that people can play out their battles and set up their campaigns and whatnot. Though I really, really wish they would make, they would stop trying to make the Imperium out to be the good guys by default. Because everyone's supposed to be awful. You're not supposed to want to cheer on for anyone. And it makes it really hard for people to want to quote-unquote play the bad guys when there is clearly a protagonist to the story, you know? I think he saw the betrayal. I think he knew. A lot of people do. And, I'm not going to discount that theory because it is a good one. He knew that bad things were going to happen, so he kind of played chess and set his pieces up where he thought they would work best. So, like, he knew Angron was going to fall and was going to be a problem, so he didn't spend a whole lot of time trying to treat Angron well. He knew that, you know, Mortarion was going to go, so he did the same thing. I don't know how true that is. I honestly don't care. I think it's good fan theory. Because a lot of the talk of 40k is how the heresy could have been prevented if he had not been a bad dad. But, like, there's plenty of moments where he is, I don't want to call him a good dad, but he definitely is, like, setting things up with people like Rogel Dorn and Rabute Gilliman and that kind of thing. So, who knows? I mean, something they kind of emphasize over and over again is that the Emperor is not omnipotent and the Emperor is not perfect. And while he is right on a lot of things, he's a colossal jackass about it. So, who knows? I mean, his whole crusade was proven to be a farce pretty early because of the fact that there were civilizations that were living out there peacefully and were doing fine up until the Imperium, you know, jackbooted them. But that's a whole nother thing. I do like the fact that they included that. Okay, this one's actually got a poncho for me to color. And again, these colors look so much better against this darker, you know, gradiented dry brush. So I do think the biggest issue was that I was trying to go too cheeky with using the airbrush to do the Zenithal highlight, and I should have gone with a dry brush, which would have created a rougher gradient that would work better on the texture. Because honestly, this looks pretty good. and I am going to go back over it with a darker wash to kind of fill everything in, but if I had to put these on the table tomorrow, I wouldn't feel bad about them, you know? Like, sitting with the galaxy-devouring maws are basically innocent but hungry, the warmongering tribes, there's only there for a good time, while everyone else is scheming, betraying, and doing unspeakable evils. Kinda, yeah, but going on to that, there is definitely, like, a sentient end to the hive fleets, and I feel like that gets ignored. And same with, like, the orcs. While the orcs are definitely there for quote-unquote just a good time, they are also unspeakably evil, because they will just straight up torture and murder and like, mutilate their captors because they find it funny. You know, and if we consider that, like, with sociopaths, a huge sign of a sociopath is that they lack empathy, then orcs technically fall right into that. Nurgle feels that no one should live forever. Yeah, exactly. And, but he also forces his rot and decay on people, right? Like, they're gonna have it whether they want it or not, because he is inevitable. The hive brain is doing the thinking, that's why I consider the troops on the ground innocent. Yeah, to some extent. Because, I mean, they also are technically supposed to be extensions of him. So, while they as entities don't really do much, the fact is that they are still being led by the prime directive of whatever he's thinking about, or whatever the hive brain is thinking about. I don't know. I don't know enough about Tyrannid lore to really speak on it too seriously. But let's see what else. Gosh, this does look a whole lot better. The idea is that obviously evil-looking factions are the most benevolent ones. Yeah, on the sliding scale, you could argue that. Because there is definitely an amount of calculated evil to the things that the Imperium does. And I mean, there's always that argument that the only times we really see the Tau as quote-unquote evil is through Imperial propaganda. So how evil are they? And even if they are technically, like, using mind control and pheromones or whatever to control their populace is still by and large at peace. So how bad could that be when the alternative is being turned into servitors and being cannibalized and being mass sacrificed and yada yada yada? So it really is what it is. Nurgle forces gifts upon the galaxy in order to cause disease and decay, so it thinks it'd be remade in his vision. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, it is what it is there, right? Every one of them are supposed to have what they believe to be as justifiable reasons for why they're doing what they're doing, but from an outsider is just like, God, that's awful. Which is the whole point. None of the factions are supposed to be sympathetic. You're just supposed to kind of join in with the bad. And that's the fun of 40k. They tried to mind control a Space Marine who detected it and killed himself so the Tau couldn't control him. Yeah. Dreadnoughts are walking coffins, etc., etc., etc. I mean, there's even part to that with the Space Marines, that they're basically hypno-indoctrinated themselves, so how much better are they? But again, it's all just the game trying to find reasons to show that XYZ faction is evil, or not to be celebrated. Okay, so yeah, this is still going to need some grinding up, but it is definitely getting better dimension than it was on the previous set of minis. Let's see. Taco Bell still serves Crunchwrap Supremes. I love Crunchwrap Supremes. I made some homemade Crunchwrap Supremes a couple years ago, and I'll be honest, they were a bitch to make, but they were so good. And they were also like twice the size of the Taco Bell one, so that was awesome. If you have time or the space, I strongly recommend making homemade Crunchwrap Supremes. They will be worth it. Okay, this guy is next. I need to add more brown. I thought I had enough, but I was wrong. Mix some of that in there. Just go all the way over it. I'm not trying to paint a Mona Lisa here. I'm just trying to get these guys ready for combat. You haven't ate yet, see you later. Okay, have a good one, Magic Donut. Thank you for dropping by. Hope you had a good time. Enjoy your meal. Yeah, I think the fluff of 40K is really good, and I think the stories they're able to tell using it are really good. And I appreciate the whole thing. I think it's good times. Which is really funny, because when I first got into 40K, that was not the case. I thought 40K was stupid and immature. And it turns out I was stupid and immature. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say this. If you are interested in using speed paints, the slap chop method is going to give you the best overall look. At least compared to what I was doing. So I strongly recommend you slap chop your minis. Get this really good look, this really good kind of effect on them, and be super happy with yourself. Because you guys saw me. Actually, no, you didn't see me because I was assembling them last stream. I wasn't actually, I didn't actually do it. It took me less than an hour to get all of these guys, dry brushed like this. And I just used some basic apple barrel paints. So it's really worth to get this much better color gradient on these minis. Okay, I think that'll do. I don't think I used this mask on the last one. I think on the last one I just went with a basic clan rat face, but I liked the gas mask too much, so we had to have it. Okay, that's all done. Oh, yeah, the shield. I gotta do the shield. So yeah, if anyone is interested, this is Army Painter Speed Paints, second wave, I think they called them. I'm not doing anything with them other than pulling them off of a palette and putting them on this dry brushed mini. I primed him black. I dry brushed him with a gray color, and then I dry brushed over smaller areas with a white one to try and do some highlights. And this is how it's turning out. So it's really good. I strongly suggest you do it too if you can. No, he's just gonna get the rust look on him. So yeah, like I said, I don't know if I'm gonna finish this tonight, but I'm definitely gonna get as far as I can and come away from this a whole lot less frustrated than I did the first set, because this is looking pretty good. I've mentioned it before, but something you can do to make your speed paints flow a little differently is you can add some airbrush flow improver. Water tends to make it bead, which is not what you want, but flow improver will make it run straight into the crevices. So if you just want something closer to a shade, then airbrush flow improver will do a really good job of letting more of the natural color underneath shine. And something, I think Ninjon's done it, but something that does help is instead of priming it and dry brushing it with whites, is going back over it with a different color as your undercoat, so that way they'll kind of help inform the speed paint color that you're putting on top of it. So if you're interested in being tricky, that is a way you can go about it. Oh, there's more lumber there. Okay. I got more wood on his handle. I figured at some point that I like Dark Angels not because they're knights in space, but the whole Unforgiven and Secret vibe is resonating with the feeling of having grown up a promising prodigy, the First Legion, who fell out of favor, the Rise of the Fallen, and now has to get by keeping up the facade, while trying to get better on their own secret. I'm emphasizing with that aspect the power armored wearing superhumans is a cool bonnet. Yeah, exactly. They have a neat story that that has a whole lot behind it, right? And that is a really cool aspect of them, is that they were the first Legion, and so they were supposed to be the best, and so the fact that they fell so embarrassingly is kind of a huge stain on them, right? And that's what makes them interesting. I will say, there is a lot of shit posting about the Dark Angels, because it's like they had some people fall to chaos and they were like, oh no, we can't let anyone know. We've got to keep this a secret for 10,000 years. And meanwhile, you've got the White Scars who were like, hey, some of us fell to chaos. Cool. Kill them. Round them up, and the ones that want to repent, send them in suicide squads. So the fact that but the White Scars also didn't have that kind of expectation on them, right? And I think that's where the big difference is that they were never expected to be the golden child. They were always kind of the ne'er-do-well that everyone just kind of let run wild. So that's a huge reason why they were able to deal with their betrayers a whole lot differently and a whole lot more casually than the Dark Angels. Speaking of, is Luther still a thing? I don't know how much you've been following the lore, but I distinctly remember Luther being kind of a big deal in the heresy. And if I remember right, he was captured under the rock, where he had gone mad due to his heavy inundation with chaos, and he basically spent his entire time under the rock begging for forgiveness for when the lion came back. The White Scars, it was not half their entire legion that was on their home planet. Exactly. Luther's still around as far as I know. He escaped the rock. Yeah, I wonder what they're gonna do with him in the story. Because, his story was kind of a super tragic one. And I always thought it was incredibly well told. So, I'm curious where they're gonna go with that, and how they're gonna tie that up in like a novel or something. Now, he's gonna have to be real careful, because, nothing escapes the rock. He has a contract saying that he can't lose. Sorry, that's a bad joke if you know anything about Dwayne Johnson. Okay. Yeah, see, like, that brown looks really good. Luther and Cypher have to meet the lion at some point. Oh yeah, they definitely do. There has to be some kind of reckoning going on there, right? Because I have no idea what's going on with Cypher. The only time I've actually ever seen Cypher in the lore has been during the End and the Death, where he appears to help Corswain with the Astronomicon. There's only one person to beat the rock. Who's that? Who is the one person that can and will beat the rock? Can, will, and has. And that is the paper boy. Oh shit! He got me! Which is funny, because paper waves in the air. It flaps around. And when it flaps around in front of your face, that means you can't see me. Gosh. Sorry, we went back to pro wrestling there for a minute. Speaking of, he's retiring. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but John Cena has made 2025 his last year as, like, an active pro wrestler. Which makes sense, because he is getting older. He's definitely become more firmly entrenched in Hollywood. So paper is really Cena? Well, it makes sense. At least to me it do. But, in that case, who's the scissors that cuts through the paper, who cuts through Cena? Maybe it's CM Punk, because he cuts through all the bullshit. I don't know. But, yeah, John Cena he's basically effectively retiring after this year. And, I mean, good for him, because it can go two ways, either because neither really fund the chaos, either they join the Lion of the Risen, or they become officially unforgiven by the Lion. The Acclaimed in AEW. That could work. I don't follow enough of AEW, so I don't really know who they are, which, you know, shame on me, but I barely follow WWE. I learn about WWE through Twitter, and the highlights and whatnot that they do. But yeah, I'm curious where they're gonna go with Luther and Cypher, because isn't, like, the Lord Cypher, isn't that kind of a position more than it is a person? Or the gimmick is scissoring, fair enough. That's really silly. Because I remember in the Heresy books, Cypher was treated like a position, and they were the keepers of information and secrets and whatnot. And, like, I don't remember. I don't remember much about I honestly didn't like the no, that's a lie. I did like the Dark Angels books for the heresies, but I don't remember much about them. And by the time we were really going to start going somewhere with the story, I think that's when I started mentally checking out, and I started skipping to only the stories I really wanted to read. So, my apologies. But yeah, I think the next big edition release is going to have some really neat things for some of these factions. I mentioned this before, but I'm actually deadly curious when and if we're going to get some really good, juicy Votann lore. Because it looks like Games Workshop is really starting to put some time and effort into the squats in Necromunda. And the squats models are just so clearly better than the Votann ones. And I feel bad because the Votann are really cool on their own, but the squats are just better. So I wonder what they're going to do when people just start replacing their Votann models with squats. From all I've seen, Cypher's a lone agent who's following his own methods, trusting nobody, so he's paranoid to cooperate with everyone, while Luther's very regretful of the entire time we saw him. Yeah, that was my understanding, is that Cypher kind of works on his own and has his own agenda, and that Luther has kind of been severely repentant for everything he did, but was driven mad by his exposure to chaos. That's my understanding, so I could be very wrong. Which is why, like I said, I'm curious what they're going to do with those two characters, because there's so much going on with them. And I should not have gotten rid of the green, because there's plenty of it right in there. But that's okay. It'll just get hit with the wash, and it'll look fine. Okay. Same thing up here, just kind of painting this in. And I gotta say, having decent brush control is also helping a lot with this, because one of my least favorite things about speed paints is that if you mess it up and it goes somewhere, you've kind of worked your way into a hole, because it's just going to stain everything. So having a little bit better control of the brush means I can kind of have more finesse with where it gets put, right? Wanted to get to the Gold Throne to kickstart the Emperor's rebirth because the Imperium needs it. Oh, I didn't know that about him. I know that there was a really cool fan theory that the Emperor as a perpetual is slowly losing the ability to resurrect himself because of the Golden Throne. And it's because there have been mentions of like parts of the Emperor flaking off. And I don't remember. It was a very long and involved and very good write-up by someone who was very clearly interested in doing fan theory. And they think that based on what Abnet's written about across the Eisenhorn and Ravenor and Beckwin books, that gosh, what's his name? Trajan Valor, not Trajan Valorous. Who's the other one? The one that was with the Emperor. That he is in like a pocket dimension, creating an army of blanks that he's going to use to eliminate all of the Astartes and Heretic Astartes. It's just a theory because Cypher doesn't divulge his plans, but he really wanted to get to the throne. That's fair. Maybe he just wanted to take a selfie. But yeah, no, I think that's kind of the problem with doing the long form storytelling that I like so much with 40K, is that the direction of the game can just change so tremendously between the last time you hit a story beat, and it's just like, well, we can't go that way with it anymore. Like when Mechanicum, the book came out, there was very heavy implications that the machine god, the Omnissiah, no, the machine god was a void dragon, or a shard of the void dragon. And I don't think they've touched on that since, and that book is like 15 years old. So who knows? Who knows what they're planning on doing? They had like a whole thing they were going to do with the Necrons before they basically rebuilt the Necrons from the ground up for, what was it? One of the editions? I don't remember. I just know that some story beats get lost as they decide to go a different direction with a faction. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worst. The stories are good setups to make people play. Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I don't have my glasses on, so some of the words or letters are coming through a little blocky. But yeah, that's exactly what they're there for, right? Is they're there to give you inspiration so that you and your friends can make the story your own. Like that thing we was talking about earlier. So, I think it's good that they do that. What I don't think is good is what I just did. There we go. That's a whole lot better. Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. Do that. Again, very impressed with how much better this looks now that there's a gradient on half of the surfaces I'm working on. It goes a long way in selling the overall look of the brown or of the speed paint. Okie dokie. Let's go ahead and get that done. Yep. And there we go. And I think what's going to happen with a lot of the fur is it's going to end up being that that brown-black wash that I end up doing at the end just to make them all look really mangy. And that'll be fine because I really don't need them to be unique with their coloring. If I really want to, I can go back later and paint it back in, right? At least that's how I'm choosing to look at it. And see, what's kind of neat about this is you can really tell when I've used a lot of water on it because it thins down very nicely. But when it does thin down, you can see just how translucent it can get. I just added a smidgen of water to my brush before I dipped it in the palette, and it made it so much lighter on the shield than it would have been. Light washes for color variations, exactly, right? All it's doing is helping me set up that the things they're using are not uniform. I am 2 for 2 for missing the top part of, for missing the top part of this guy's, like, torn robe. And that's frustrating to me. But thankfully, I guess it'll get a coat when I do my wash. This one's got a really bad hump on him. Okay. And kind of the same thing I said earlier, having good brush control really helps with the speed paints here. It allows it so it doesn't always go really bad into the crevices and whatnot where you don't want it to. And you end up getting some pretty nice coloring. I wish my camera would stop focusing on my hand and keep focusing on the model. Actually, what I might do is I might go ahead and switch it back to a fixed focus so that it stops doing that. Because every time I look over and see everything heavily blurred, it's really frustrating. Okay, that being said, how was everyone's day? I don't think I asked that question yet. I've been too busy kind of rambling. I know that, like for you, Dark Volt, it's a little later in the evening. Possibly, no, it's really late in the evening, isn't it? Because it's about 8 o'clock here and you're 6 hours ahead of me, so is it like 2 a.m. where you are? Go to bed. Or do you not need to go to bed? What is it focusing on? There we go. I don't know what your sleep schedule is. I'm not your mom. I did that once for a background concept piece. I blocked out the building with very strong colors and set that layer to the side. Then after I finished rendering shading, I brought it back with like 2 to 5% opacity. Yeah, fair enough. You said you just woke up. Yeah, I saw that you took a nap, but you're ahead of me, right? So it is like 2 a.m. where you are. I can't imagine napping that late at night. At that point, I just go to sleep. But I'm also an old guy So, I have a pretty regular schedule already in my brain. Yeah, I mean, so how is it at that point? Is it really nice and quiet where you are? Because that is one of the benefits of waking up obscenely early or staying up obscenely late, is just that your schedule is non-existent. So you get to set your schedule. That's got to feel pretty good. Because I remember for the short period of time that I was unemployed, it actually freaked me out not having to stick to a consistent schedule. And so I basically forced myself to. And I would continue waking up at like 6 in the morning because that's when I woke up to go to work. And I would still do my morning routine, but instead of going to work, I would sit down and I would just study for hours on end. And that's how I was able to pass my A+ exam. You miss out on all the social times? Yeah, I get that. And I don't know, but for me it kind of depends on how social are you as a person, right? Because some people, that kind of really sucks for them, but others are just like, well, I don't really do those things anyway, so whatever. I have no idea what your social life is like other than that you are apparently a night owl. My problem right now is that because of my schedule, I'm basically not free until like 6:30, 7 o'clock p.m. because... And at that point, it just feels too late to try and do anything with friends. Because they all have day jobs that have them waking up real early. So it's like by the time we get together and start hanging out, we've got like 2 hours to do anything before we all got to get going. And that just feels like a huge waste of time. And it doesn't help that right now, one of my best friends is like burning the candle really hard at both ends because he's trying to get out of teaching. So I don't have a whole lot of time to hang out with him anymore. But hopefully for him it'll be worth it because he really needs to get another job. He's another teacher like I was, and it's kind of doing the same thing to him that it did for me. Why is the camera fighting me so much? Problem is that when I'm awake during the day, my workflow keeps getting interrupted. Like yesterday, I was trying to write down notes and kept getting pulled to help in the kitchen or picking up groceries. Took a notebook for the way, but riding the bus was bumpy. Yeah, so it probably feels like when you are awake, you're super unproductive, and that really discourages you from being out there, right? I can definitely get that. Okay. What is this looking for? It's going to be like that from now on. Yeah, I will say one thing I do not miss is the whole being my own boss when it came to hours. That was something. You want to do both, you want to be social, but also get things done without breaking your train of thought. That's fair. That's absolutely fair. I don't know. I guess find social circles that primarily work in the evening. Oh. Because that is definitely quite a conundrum to be in. Bell. Okay, that's good. That's this stream as an example. Fair enough. I mean, if it allows you to kind of fill that social battery, then cool. Cool. I'm glad that it does that for you. Yeah, that's kind of what Doig Swift became for me for a little while. Especially during my first few weeks of unemployment, because they were streaming around the same time I was waking up and getting breakfast. So it kind of distracted me from the feeling that I had failed in some way, because the job that I had gone to college for and, you know, had spent so much time learning and spent so much time being at, I couldn't do anymore. So there was definitely a feeling of like, oh man, I messed up somehow. And being able to wake up and kind of hang out with them in the morning definitely made things feel better. You like hanging out in art streams because the co-working aspect is like we're all doing things together. Yeah, that's a huge part of it for me too. It helps focus me because I know they're doing something and I'm doing something, so we're doing something. And yeah, it feels natural. It does that thing where you can chat with someone or just listen to people chat while you work on your own thing. And especially when you're watching someone stream on like Twitch, you can interject when you feel like you've got something to say, right? So there's definitely that kind of shared experience happening, and that's a really good feeling. What's not a good feeling is realizing that I keep missing flaps of clothing that I'm assuming are part of his belt. That's a bad feeling. I don't like that feeling. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and do this. And yeah, this thinning down and watering down has been real nice because it's definitely making the lumber have, you know, different levels of richness to them, and that's giving it a lot of color variance, which I think is kind of neat. I do not know what the meow was for, but I appreciate it. Thank you. Hopefully everything is okay. Okay. Did the stream die? Oh, meow's in agreement. Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, so this thing is basically done. Oh no, he's still got that poncho underneath. Skaven wear poncho. Which actually is kind of funny. I know it's meant to be like a cloak so that they have some warmth on their back, but it's a poncho. These Skaven are wearing ponchos. And that's very silly to me. Okay, so that should be good. I think I need some more of this paint because I'm losing it. Miss the cloths. Or if you're talking about this right here, the flag, got that happen from your late cat and never left. Fair enough. If you're talking about this, I'm gonna do this in another color. I actually would do this in like the bone color, so it looks more like a canvas than a brown cloth. Okie dokie. There is a small chance that I might stop a little early, because normally I've been stopping around like 9:30, closer to 10 on my time. But I'm trying to get some 3D prints done, and I printed them this morning and looked at them tonight, and they basically all were so bad that I had to throw them away. But I think I know what the problem is, so I'm going to have to support them, and I want to start that print again this evening, and in doing so that's going to take up some time, so I'm probably going to stop around 9 so I have that extra hour to kind of figure out what I'm doing with that print. Basically, I think I might have mentioned this in a previous stream, but the Imperial Fist army that I'm trying to create, I really don't want to have to spend money again on the infantry, so I'm going to 3D print them. Somehow, when I was scrolling through the supports, I must have accidentally used the scroll wheel while it was hovering over like the support density, and it really screwed up the support density, and so I had supports that were basically hugging each other, and it was just way too thick, and so the prints themselves from the back look absolutely terrible. And since I want them to be, since I'm going to paint them up real nice, I want them to be higher than tabletop quality. And I can't do that with how just absolutely, you know, for lack of a better term, fucked up the prints ended up being. I didn't even bother like washing or curing them. I just threw them away in the garbage can with the rest of my hobby crap. But the good news is the part that wasn't touched by the supports was absolutely beautiful. So if I can make it so that the supports are less dense, then I can probably make some really nice heavy intercessors. Could I use them as corpses? Not really. I guess I could, but they're missing their arms and whatnot. So I've got, this is what I got. And you can see from the front, they look fantastic. From the back, though, they're chewed up. And I kind of don't want to have to clean all these down to make them look halfway adequate. You know what I mean? But yeah, like everything else looks really, really good on them. So I'm pretty darn happy that they look okay, except for the back. I'm just going to have to manually support them. I mean, look at these feet. These just look terrible. And the backpack. And I don't want it to look like that. So I'm just going to have to do them over. I mean, they were only like $2 or $3 worth of resin, if that, so I'm not super worried about it. But I'm just frustrated because I already have a set of heavy intercessors from another content creator. But at the time I thought they were great, but the more I look at them, the less I like them. So I really want to replace them, and I hate the paint job I have on them. I really want to replace them with these new ones that I found. But obviously that was actually 10 of them. My first 10 failed because I got happy-handed, and the supports ended up being too dense. Because otherwise they came out perfect. So that was pretty frustrating. But yeah, my goal is to get my my Imperial Fists at least up to where my my Death Guard are in terms of paint quality. So I really need to do a much better job on them. Because I realized when I took them out to play Mommy Dova a couple weeks ago, that they were so wildly different in quality that I kind of got real frustrated looking at them. So I think between kind of rebuilding the army and repainting the minis that I wasn't too happy with, it'll make me happy. But of course I've got to do all that around painting these guys up. On top of the, I still need to finish painting Cursed City. Actually, this has given me a lot of encouragement to paint Cursed City because I'm at the point now where I'm working mainly on the hero units and the boss units. But if I can accelerate some parts of that process with speed paints, I'm definitely going to. Because my goal isn't to make those, you know, competition worthy. It's just to get them to a point where playing with them just feels like you've got a premium game piece in your hand, you know? And so that doesn't require the same level of painting as, say, doing Horus did. I kind of refuse to because I don't want to work that hard on him. Okay, and once again, looks pretty good. Pretty happy with that. I got one more, and then I can just mix in some black and some thinner, and I can just douse it all. Actually, no, I can't yet because I got to do the tails. Got to do the steel. But once again, this did not take as long as I was expecting it to, and I have a lot more done in the short amount of time that I've been working on them. So that feels pretty good. By the way, I have no clue how the audio is coming through. I'm assuming it's okay because I kept the same settings and I'm talking into the same mic. Hopefully it's all coming through okay on that end. I guess I'll just have to check when I give this a watch, because I don't watch the entire things, but I kind of scrub through the videos to see if everything turned out okay. Okay. Come on, paint it. Paint the edge. It's been 2 streams and you pretty much got all your clan rats with color. Exactly, right? The one, I mean, I did admittedly do some of this off stream, but still, I've spent far less time across 40 clan rats than I would have otherwise if I tried to do this a more traditional method. So it's all turning out pretty darn good as far as I'm concerned. And I can reserve like the really hardcore painting jobs for the much nicer minis. Like honestly, I'm debating if I want to do the camera froze. Camera, hello. Camera. Oh, it's still active. Let's see what's going on here. We're gonna go ahead and turn off that main camera. Oh no, it did die. Moment. No, it's definitely still alive on here. Like I'm still getting a feed, so Give me a second. I'm gonna put that up for a second while I try and figure this out. It seems to have died in Camo Studio, which I'm not sure why. Because I'm still getting a live feed on my actual camera phone, but not on the program. That's really weird. Let's go ahead and shut down Camo Studio. And then we'll go ahead and pop it back on real quick. Camo Studio, why you do this to me? I'm gonna take a guess. I wonder if maybe... Huh. That's funky. Nope, it's not the VPN. Okay, well it disconnected on my camera because I shut out of it, so... Let's see if it'll pop back up. Oh, well... That really sucks. It doesn't look like it wants to work, because even though I've got it hooked up, let's try the wide lens. Anything? Ultra wide? Telephoto? Well, dangarang. Yeah, no, none of it's working. Front camera. Nope. That's really weird. It just... Yeah, I did disconnect and reconnect. I could try that with the stream real quick, but it's not the stream, it's Camo Studio. Camo Studio is pooping to bed. Because right now I'm using the Camo Studio feed, like I'm looking at the preview window, and it's not giving me good. Let's try this real quick. One moment. I'm going to try and reconnect it using the QR code. Pair it that way. See if it does anything. Okay, that's really weird because, like, the camera on the phone is feeding. I can see the live feed happening. But with Camo Studio, it's just not. Okay, so I'm actually going to fully disconnect from Camo Studio. That can go away. And let's go ahead and pull you back up. Man, I'd really hate to have to stop the stream now. I do have another web camera, but it's nowhere near the quality of this one. Let's see. Okay, it looks like Camo's trying to start back up. Error starting Camo Studio. Quit the application in Task Manager. Okay, goodbye. Or restart the computer. Restart the computer is the other option. And I'll be honest, if I have to do that, I'm probably just gonna... Oh, wait, no, here comes Camo Studio. There we go. Okay. Okay, the web camera is working. That's good. It's found my S23. Okay. It's found my hands. Okay, that looks like it's going okay. Oh, that's severely out of focus. That's severely in focus. Okay, let's try this real quick. 3, 2, 1, boom. Aha! Yep, Camo Studio hit a glitch. And now everything is working again. Hooray. So yeah, sorry about the interruption. Camo Studio decided to poo the bed. But now everything is working again. I just needed to shut down the program entirely and start it back up. Okay. What else is kind of neat about finding out about this this dark wash is that all these areas that I didn't do a very good job with are just going to get covered anyway. So it's all going to be fine. Okay, next, I think I'm actually going to move over to Pallid Bone. Pallid Bone is going to be the color I use for the wraps, for the banners, for a lot of the smaller stuff. And then we'll move over probably to Broadsword Silver, which will... Yeah, shade washes are awesome. Unfortunately, without a kind of thinner, I'm not actually very impressed with the shade washes because they tend to pull really weird. So putting flow improver in these things has helped a lot. But yeah, I'm just going to hit these with the pallid bone, and that will allow me to just kind of hit these bandages with a slightly different color than the brown I've used everywhere else. And it does actually show up really nicely on the Mini, which would be great if I would show the Mini on the camera, but that's a whole nother story. Okay, so kind of the same thing here. Go ahead and hit the handle. I can do this. Go ahead and hit the handle. And then, like I mentioned earlier, I was going to go ahead and use this shade on the flag, which honestly I don't think the flag got enough of a dry brush on it, but I suppose we'll see how this looks. You use Gloop Strong Tone, especially to simulate oil grease on machines. Yeah, that seems like a really good use for that. I've kind of been using a combination of Nuln Oil and Agrax Earthshade to try and do that, but I've never been truly happy with it, you know? So maybe I'll try something like that. Army Painter has a strong tone that's supposed to be kind of a brown wash, and I've been using that in place of Agrax a lot because Agrax is heckin' expensive. Okay, yeah, see that amount of richness in there is good. That's kind of what I'm looking for. I'm just gonna go ahead back on this one. And actually, that does kind of have a this kind of does have a cooking oil appearance, don't it? Now, hopefully, this stays on the Mini okay. I don't think he had anything else special that needed to be hit with this, so that's gonna go fine. Use Gloopy. Okay, I got you. Okie dokie, same thing here. Just gonna do a big old glob of this on the wrap around his weapon. And I think that's all I need for on this guy, because he doesn't exactly have a whole lot of stuff on him. And actually, you know what? I don't need the painting handle for this. This is all pretty straightforward. The old Citadel Black Wash was perfect for oil stains, slight gloss, and a dirty black shade. I think, I don't know if they have a Nuln Oil gloss, but I think that's what a lot of people use that for, too. I remember when I was first getting into mini painting, the person who got me into it was like, you need to start using washes. You need to start using Nuln Oil because Nuln Oil is magical. And I refused to believe him because I was just like, no, it's fine. The shadows come through fine because light is a thing that exists in the real world. And it took me actually using, I think it was Agrax Earthshade, to realize how much of a fool I had been. So, yeah, and then I started using it on everything, and it just made everything look kind of dirty. So, painting journeys. They're long and varied. Speaking of, I'm just going to go ahead and paint that brown, because I'm tired of that looking out of place. Yeah, this bone wash is really good for being kind of a dirty canvas. I dig this a lot. It's looking pretty good. Okay, this guy right here. Next in line, kind of with the same thing. Just hit the bone on there. A little bit right there for the handle of the knife. And I think that's kind of it for him. I guess what I could do, I'll paint that metallic, and then I'll paint back over it with the bone wash, and that'll give it kind of a, not quite a gold look. This guy. Same thing, paint the handle. Yeah, now I'm getting into kind of the minutia here. He didn't have much on him. He doesn't have any on him. Yeesh. Okay. And go right there. I think I'll do the same thing here because this is starting to bug me. I'll just paint over that a little bit. There we go. Back into here to give his weapon wrap a little bit of color. Nothing too big. There we go. And see, now that You had a point. The only problem is that real life shadows skip over miniatures because they're so tiny. Exactly, right? That's the big issue. We have to paint in the shading to make them look like they belong on a larger scale. Real shadow works best for super tiny lamps because the scatter isn't as large. The bigger the light bulb, the larger the diffusion. Yeah, exactly. And me being a doofus, and just, you know, being, I don't want to say lazy, but just being afraid of change, I didn't realize that until I actually did it. And then I was like, oh, this is what you meant. And so it suddenly made a lot more sense about exaggerating light and shadow. Speaking of, he has a bird skull on his head. Or a rat skull. I don't even know if I painted that rat skull on the other one, but this one definitely has it. Okay. Okay, I love this little guy. I don't think he has anything I need to paint, but just the fact that he's just kind of like, hey, yeah. Hey, yeah. He looks like he's gonna menace you. I can go over there. And I think I actually got pretty lazy with these guys, and I didn't even bother painting their eyes red like I wanted to do, because I want my Skaven to have like that creepy ruby red eye glow. And I think with the last set of them, I didn't bother doing that because I was just glad to be done with them. He'll pike you with them stick. Yes, exactly. So I think I might have to go back and do that for these guys. Go ahead and give them the, wherever I can see a visible eye, try and poke it really quickly with the red speed paint to give it like that creepy glow. Okay, does he have anything? Yeah, he's got the handle to his weapon, so let's, it just got a big drop of water in it, so let's go ahead and stir it up so that it's got better distribution. And then drag it across there. And yeah, on camera, I think you can, when it focuses, you can pretty much see where it's hitting, so that's all definitely a good sign. Same thing there. Bueno. Okay, this one in this cool action pose. I keep forgetting that the camera is in a different position. I set up the camera differently today, and it's making it hard for me to locate it. Which I don't know if that's been a big issue for the viewer. I kind of figure it has been because I've been all over the place. But it's definitely made it weird to try and locate where I need to be holding the mini. Okay, there we go. That's better. Like, I'm trying to find a position for my left arm where I can just kind of keep it there, and the mini will show up regardless because I'm in a fixed position. But I've been failing with that, so... I don't... Oh yeah, I used the fleshy color for the tails, so I haven't used that yet, which is good. So it's going to be unique to only their tails. That gas mask is freaking cool. I have no recollection of using that on the other one, but I like it on this one. 5. There we go. Yeah, I'll get there eventually. What it really boils down to is when I set up the camera next time, is make sure that I have a good fixed position. Okay. I forgot to do this part of the bandage on the other one. Which I think... Yeah, this guy. I didn't realize that the bandage went all the way down his arm, so I didn't paint it all the way, and now it's just part of his skin tone, or his fur tone. Which is fine, because it doesn't really matter too much, but still want to make sure to give them as much detail as I can, given how small they are. Okay, that one's good. Right here, right here, right here. Kind of the same thing. Not a whole lot to hit here. Just enough to get it. Get a little bit of that. Get it back over here. And that's kind of it. Everything else is going to be metallic, I suppose. Okay. I forgot to do this one's belt, so I'm really glad I didn't get rid of the brown. Okay. Let's see if I can do this without making too much of a mess. Mission complete. Okay. There we go. Oh, this is a scrungly little guy. Yeah, the skin tone for the tails. Exactly. And I gotta do the metallics. So these aren't almost done. They're just, this is moving a whole lot quicker than it did last time. And I kind of dig that a lot. Okay, the bandage. And I think actually I'm gonna go ahead and start it at least with a little bit of this this bone tone for the shield. That's far too much. And then I might go back over it with another color. There was another one that had a shield on his back that had that. Where'd he go? Is it you? Oh, it's you. Okay, I didn't miss you. Yeah, me too. I was a little crestfallen after that first session, but then I started hitting them with the wash and everything suddenly got a whole lot better. So I'm glad that this worked out, because I was really not looking forward to having to go back and touch up every one of these to make them look acceptable, you know what I mean? So the fact that I'm kind of hitting some of those marks with just this initial layer is making things go a whole lot better. There goes that. And there goes some of that for the bandaging. Mayhaps a little more. Yeah, that'll work. The rope, though, around his waist, though, needs to be painted. Just a little bit darker. There we go. And that bit at the end, I think, is supposed to be a rock. Can't write off a myth before going all the way, at least. Exactly, right? I used to watch a lot of Bizarre Foods with Andrew Zimmern. I don't know if you ever watched that show, but he always had a strong belief that you've got to at least taste something twice. Because his whole thing was that he was eating foods that were important to different ethnic groups and different tribes and different cultures. And to eat it once and then spit it out, it was just kind of like, okay, yeah, technically you did try it, but did you really? And so one of his big mantras of the show is, I've got to try it twice. And most of the time, his first impression was correct, but he still was polite enough to put it back in his mouth and try again. And I think that's a really good way to look at things, because you never know. Something you might not have liked on first blush might end up being something that you really enjoy the second time around. I mean, that was my painting journey. I was kind of sad and miserable during my first attempt at painting, and now look at me. I can't stop. You're gonna go over here. I will say I might have gone a little bit too heavy with the dry brushing on the tails, because the flesh tone is not popping through as much as I would like. Maybe it's just simply the surprise that gets you? Yeah, exactly. I actually kind of had that moment with the dish that my wife cooked. She made chicken congee, which I'm not sure if you know what that is, but it's a Chinese dish that's essentially rice porridge that is generally made savory by adding meat and broth and spices, and it kind of doesn't look super appetizing because it just looks like mush. But as soon as you take a bite out of it, it's got a very chicken noodle soupy kind of comfort level to it, and it's like, oh, I understand now. And so the first time I looked at it, I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna like this. It smells okay, but I don't know. But I went ahead and gave it a shot and was like, okay, yeah, it's fine, I guess. It's pretty good. But then I tried it again a little later after it had time to sit, and it's like, oh my god, no, we've found the new dish for the family. We found the new food that the family is going to start eating. This is going to become a Benry Paints family food. Because once it kind of has a chance to sit and marinate together, it's really good. So if I could recommend a food to you, if you don't mind the taste of like chicken noodle soup in a slightly thicker form, pork congee is definitely something to try. Because it's basically like boiling rice for 20 minutes and then mixing in chicken broth and ginger and cut up chicken bits and a couple of other things, and it's really good. So I would give it a shot if you're into those kind of things. We've been eating it for dinner for the week, and I could not be happier. Oh, that's just fleshy bits. I'm gonna paint his fleshy bits to be fleshy. Oh, that's gonna come through really good when it's all dirty and shit. I didn't even notice he had fleshy bits that were just kind of poking out. Oh, that's grody. I dig it. Look at them. You could say that next time you're in the mood or you're bedridden. Yeah, it's not a very chewy food, which is kind of nice. I didn't even notice these fleshy bits on the last dude. So this one's gonna be special because he got fleshy bits. Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely kind of getting the song and dance of this now. And it's making painting it a whole lot easier. Unfortunately, I'm still struggling with keeping them on camera. Okay. There we go. That one's pretty much done. It's also pretty out of focus. What keeps hitting my... something... it feels like something keeps hitting my head. I think it might be the phone. Okie dokie, here's this lad. But yeah, if I really drown the brush in the flesh tone, and then just drag it across the tail, it does a pretty good job of getting, like, all of the tail. Let me get that little rat lad, too. And, same thing, this guy's kind of done. Yeah, see, that actually looks pretty darn good. I also went ahead and magnetized a bunch of movement trays and put little metal discs on the bottom of these, so even though I've got 40 of them, they're going to be pretty easy to carry around, and I think that's pretty cool. It's definitely not going to encourage me to play a fantasy game where, like, evil rat men are the villains or anything, you know, a D&D game. And use these as the minis or anything. I'm not going to do that. That can go there. Yeah, watching Swift talk about, or watching Swift and everyone talk about their D&D campaign, it's giving me the itch to play again. I think I mentioned that last time, but it really is. It's like I really just want to find time to sit down and start planning for a D&D game. But like that planning part is kind of the big Achilles heel, is when am I going to have time? When do I have time to actually sit down and plan? So to be honest, as with anything else, if you want it bad enough, you'll make time, right? So I figure once that moment hits, I'm just going to be like, you know what? I'm inspired. Time to make a small campaign, and I'll make it work out. Well, he just went face down. So as with everything else, I suppose we will see. I think something that helped with my previous Dungeons and Dragons, like, fever dream of planning was that I had a lot more free time. When I was really into D&D, I was also working during the pandemic, so I had a lot of time where I was just kind of sitting around doing nothing. You had a game where we had the Rise of a Rat Cult Rise Up after dealing with them. I made my mouse character that came from the same origin. Very cool. And see, that's what I love about D&D. Like, inspiration comes from everywhere, and that's so cool to me. And it makes it so that like everything about the game is deeply personal to you if you give it time. And I know you know what I mean, but that is one of the coolest things to me about D&D is that even though you are using like a player's handbook and you are kind of using characters that were pre-made or preconceived because of someone else's idea of tropes, after a little while they just kind of become yours. And there's something really, really satisfying about that. And I'm kind of a forever DM in that I don't get a lot of time or a lot of chances to actually play my own character. And I don't know if I can anymore because it feels weird, but I get really bored when I'm not the one DMing, when I'm not the one that constantly has to think. So, I don't know. Maybe I just need to try again. But I just know the few times that I have gotten a chance to be a player character, I've not enjoyed it for weird reasons. So who knows? Maybe I'll try. It's so easy to fluff the mechanics and let your imagination run wild, and that's the beauty of it. That is the absolute beauty of Dungeons and Dragons, is as we've talked about before, it's just collaborative storytelling, and what's more base to humans than collaborative storytelling, right? Okay, the next thing I need to do is going to be, I don't need the flesh tone anymore. I don't need the bandage tone anymore, or the bone tone. I need metal. Yeah, I wanna go ahead and set up that print stuff, but I can do that some other time. And to be completely honest, it's probably not a good idea for me to continue making more things to paint when I have so many things to paint. So I think I am just going to chill here for a little while longer. I'm finally on some kind of roll with these guys, so I might as well stick to it. I love that I get to tell / be part of the story, but you don't have the burden of making it all up by yourself. Yeah, exactly. Now, honestly, I enjoy being the DM. I enjoy kind of creating the worlds and scenarios, but at the same time, I wish I were better at it. And to some extent, I think the ideas in my head, and this is kind of a thing with anyone who's into this stuff, the ideas in my head are always better than the ideas that I put out on the table. Hey, Shiny Mew Paints, how's it going? I saw that you were in VR chat earlier. Did you have a good time? I'm right now finishing up some speed paints on these lads. I was actually gonna stop and try and fix some 3D prints, but I kind of talked myself out of it because I realized that I've got so much stuff to paint that I really don't need to go about making more stuff to paint. So, how are you doing? How are things going for you? Hopefully you had a good time doing the thing that you were doing. I have been much more thoroughly enjoying working with these speed paints against the Zenithal Prime. That's the thing with ideas, they're so vague in the mind they can be anything, so put them on paper and refine them as best you can. Yeah, and that's kind of the big part of it, right? That's what makes it so great, is you have a chance to do that. And I feel like the barrier between being the idea guy and the storyteller guy is so much narrower, smaller in D&D in a good way, because you can have a cool idea, and with just a little bit of massaging you can turn that cool idea into a cool experience, and I think that's worth a lot. Okay, I've made a mistake somewhere, because I feel like I painted a... No, I didn't. That was the first one I picked up. Okay, I was gonna be like, I feel like I painted something and forgot to do the chainmail, but that was the first dude I painted. More or less, you had some kid ruin your mood. That really sucks. I'm sorry to hear that. They can go kick rocks without socks. Or in flip-flops, or however the saying goes. Because, I don't understand why people feel the need to be dicks. You also get to collaborate with other players to make the idea even better and contribute to their ideas. Yeah, you can build on the excitement of the other people around you. And that's a really rare thing to have when it comes to shared experiences, especially when you're gaming, right? And to me, that's a great thing about the Dungeons and Dragons. They called you some trans slur. Well, they can get fucked. If someone's gonna be hateful like that, they can fuck right the fuck off. Fuck that person. I'm gonna slur them. No, that's bad. I'm not gonna do that. That sounds terrible. Yeah, I hope you have a better time here. That made me mad for you. I'm really sorry you had to deal with that. Hopefully you can chill here for a little while and know that we're really happy you're here. And I'm happy you decided to stop by and say hi. And I'm sorry for getting mad. But that little frogman mad. Little frogman is mad for you. No one deserves that kind of disrespect. Yeah, it was really highly uncalled for. It's always highly uncalled for. No one needs to use that kind of language. No one needs to dehumanize other people that way. So hopefully being here will be a little more chill for you, because I'm gonna try my best not to get all angry and make it about that. That's the kind of thing that would get you kicked out of my class and written up if you were in my classroom. Oh, I don't know if I told you. I probably did, but I was a school teacher for 10 years before getting into IT. And that kind of disrespect was something I never tolerated. And thankfully, that kind of disrespect was something that very rarely happened in my classroom. So I'm happy, at the very least, I was somewhat of a safe space for those individuals. Okay. But yeah, right now, I'm just kind of working on these guys. This is my second set. They look a lot like my first set, but I dry brushed them instead of airbrushing them to get the highlights. And I think the less refined look is actually helping a lot with the speed paints. Your favorite animal is the poison dart frog? Very cool. I think they're neat. I don't know much about them other than that they're super neat. But yeah, I've just been working on these guys, having a lot more fun than I did on last week when I worked on them. And after I finish doing this stuff, they're just gonna get like a very sloppy wash, and hopefully it will have a similar effect to the previous one, and that will really allow me to make them look similar but still better in a lot of ways, if you know what I mean. Because I really am planning on legitimately just doing the same thing. Well, I'll remember to never tongue kiss a poison dart frog, and hopefully that will be enough to prevent me from being exposed to their toxins. You know what I mean? Don't tongue kiss poison dart frogs, it's bad for you. I think this whole thing is supposed to be metal. Well, my version of it, it's metal. Very cool. Okay. Do some of that. Do some of that. That is something that I'm kind of surprised. Well, actually, I take that back. I'm not really surprised, but it would be fun to see in some kind of no tongue, only open mouth smooches. Open mouth smooches sounds so weird because it just sounds like you're glomming onto them with your face and going hom 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 hom. And I suppose for some people that might be their jam, but I'd have a hard time just not like laughing. You know what I mean? Could you imagine someone that you love or your partner comes up to you and is like, "Give me a kiss," and then they just hom 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 hom. Which actually is even funnier considering my avatar is or my PNG tuber is a frog. Please don't imagine the PNG tuber doing that. Actually, what is it? There's a meme going around right now, and it's a fairly old one, but it's been kind of co-opted for 40k, where they have Gilliman and Yvraine, and I guess they're supposed to be tongue kissing, but it's done in like the stupid, goofy appearance or like art style, so they're not like passionately drawn or anything. They're just two blobs that have just kind of latched onto each other's faces. Ideas are fickle. Oh no. Oh no. Ha ba ba ba. That is a silly noise, and I cannot wait to hear that on the playback. So yeah, that I guess that's now a thing that's out there in the world. Gosh. This actually doesn't look half bad. What's going to make that worse is that so I can better hear everything, I have headphones in, so when I do the playback, what time is it right now? It's almost 2 hours in. I'm going to have to hear that very loudly in my ears, and I just redid the sound setup so that my voice had more clarity to it. So hopefully that does, and hopefully it works. Hopefully you guys are hearing my voice with a little less fuzz compared to last week. I gave it kind of a dry run yesterday? Yeah, yesterday when I was off work. And I think everything turned out okay. And hopefully the same thing is happening. Yeah, you can hear me well. Fantastic. I can't wait to hear that sound played back. Oh yeah, he's got armor down here too. Okay, and he's also got a little bit of this chainmail. I think my favorite thing about this whole bit is that I'm clearly not doing a great job getting coverage, but it's gonna look okay. Turn the stream up and I don't notice a fuzz. Okay, that's fantastic. Yeah, what it was originally was that I had really bad sloppy settings for the sound, and I did a quick YouTube video yesterday before I actually got on stream to try and get better sound, because I realized I was peaking the mic a lot just from regular talking. So I found a quick YouTube video that turned out to be from a guy who produces music, and it was like, oh, so I'm going to get some really good sound now. And that's kind of exactly what happened. I'm not sure if it's perfect because honestly I don't like the sound of my voice very much, but it doesn't quite sound as like in the same room as you clear as I would hope. But it's definitely a whole lot closer than it was when I was before I did the fixes. So I'm pretty jazzed about that. Yeah, I actually downloaded another equalizer plugin at that video's behest to try and get my voice to sound a little crispier. And yesterday I had it too crispy, so when I played it back, it made my voice sound like a higher pitch than it was. So I added back some of the bass this evening, and hopefully that still sounds okay. Okay, we're just gonna go ahead. I probably should have painted over this with some white so I could get some of the spike color back, but I'm not too worried about that. Uh-oh, this guy has nowhere for me to grab him to put him down, so I've got to be very careful. There we go. Well, I'm glad that it sounds good, and I'll be able to give my own assessment of this after I sign off at around 9:30. Okay. I'm still mad about that thing that happened to Shiny View Paints. I'm still mad about that. I'm sorry to bring that back up, but I'm still so mad about that. People say some like incredibly mean, egregious shit online because they think they're safe, and all I can ever think of is like Mike Tyson saying people get really brave behind the keyboard. You know, your hearing's not the best. I can't hear stuff other people are very sensitive on. Well, hopefully you've been able to hear me okay. But yeah, damn it, I'm mad. I'm real mad. Be nice to people. Yeah, I did. I thought it was pretty neat. I mean, I'll be honest. I don't want this to detract at all from it, but I'm not very hard to impress because I appreciate it when people make things, and I think it's cool that they do. So yeah, I dig it. And the only time I'm really gonna be like, whoa, I'm not sure I'm down for that is if it's something mean-spirited. You know what I mean? Like by and large, most arts, most creations, I'm pretty cool with it. As long as it's not done with a base of malice towards someone else or something else that doesn't deserve it. You know? Otherwise, it's just kind of like, I'm glad you found a way to express yourself in a way that's meaningful to you. Yeah, it does take a lot of effort to be mean. I think some of my favorite stories are hearing about people that used to be bullies, and then they realized how exhausting it was to be a bully and how much nicer it was once they just chilled out. Because there's a lot of miserable, bad people out there, and that tattoo was a pain in the ass to resize. I bet it was. I can't imagine that stuff being easy. I've tried to do a little bit of 3D modeling, and it turned out okay, but it was so difficult that it kind of discouraged me from doing any more for now. So hopefully, I'll eventually get back to it. So how did you do the tattoo? How did you manage to get it on there? Because if it was difficult, I want to hear how you overcame that difficulty. Were you just like extremely patient with it, and through persistence you were able to get through it? Or was there some special technique you used that made it a whole lot easier, or got you to overcome that challenge? What did you end up doing that that eventually managed to make you successful in that endeavor? Because I mean, all I'm doing is rambling and painting. Does the rat have another rat on his shoulder? Yeah. Rat Buddy has a rat. He's also got one in between his legs. He's got a rat down here, and he's got a rat up there. I think that's one of my favorite things about the Sigmar minis, and a lot more of the minis that are being created nowadays, is that they tend to have a lot of little buddies. And having friends is cool. So I dig that. Also, Grim Lady, hey, how's it going? I'm speed painting my second set of clan rats, my second set of 20, and I'm enjoying it a lot more than I did the first time around, because a combination of understanding the paints a little better and the sloppier dry brush has really brought out a lot more character into these models. It's probably a snack knowing Skaven. I actually don't know. I'm going to trust you on that because I don't know how Skaven react to little smaller rats. I'd figure that since they're... Well, actually, no. Given that Skaven are awful in every way, they probably are also cannibals, so I can't even say no to that. I was going to say, I figure they're just like little pets and little familiars in the same way that Nurglings are. But, you know, Skaven. If you had to choose what was going to be their potential decision based on where they are on the bastard scale, my understanding is they're always going to make the worst choice. Having familiars and animal friends activates your Pokemon neurons? Exactly. Oh, Darkvolt, why'd you have to say that? Why did you have to say that, Darkvolt? Have you seen the leaks? I don't want to talk about, you know, the bad parts of the leaks in terms of leaking personal information, but have you seen the Pokemon leaks? Thank you. They do look pretty good, and I can't wait for them to look dirty. But yeah, Darkvolt, you've opened Pandora's box here. Have you seen the leaks? Maybe you haven't, and maybe when I start talking about them, they're not going to be as bad to you as they are to me. But have you seen the leaks? You have seen. Was not thinking about that when I mentioned Pokemon. I hope you weren't. I will say that hearing that most of it is supposed to be reminiscent of like old folklore made it make a whole lot more sense and made it a whole lot less insidious and weird. You know what I mean? But at the same time, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I can't even remember the name of the Pokemon that has come under fire because of one of those stories, but Oh my goodness. For anyone who doesn't know, there was a big leak of Game Freak information from developers who, I don't know if they were just spitballing, I don't know if they were creating lore, I don't know what was going on, but they basically were doing like prehistoric and old mythology stories of Pokemon interacting with people, and a lot of them involved like slaughtering and eating the Pokemon, having relations with the Pokemon, Pokemon tricking people into living with them and then forcing them to have babies with them. It got weird fast, but it didn't read like it was supposed to be pornographic. It read like it was supposed to be a fever dream. You've seen people reacting strongly about it, but as far as I see it as a creative myself, it's scrapped research and development that never got to the final product. To be fair, it was heavily hinted that people used to, with Pokemon. Yeah, both of these things are true. Like, it's not, I don't think it's canon, and even if it is, you know, it's a children's game, guys, right? So it's not like they're gonna start including incredibly risque things with Pokemon. These were just supposed to be old mythology. That was just a thing that they were developing. With, you know, people are blowing it out of proportion, and I'm doing it because it's funny to me. But the thing that really frustrated me about it was pretty clearly that like personal information got leaked about different staff members, and that's never cool. That's not cool. Don't do that to these people, you know? But at the same time, of all of the things to happen in the year 2024, to be fair, after the Pal World lawsuit, you wouldn't put it past Nintendo? Yeah. Well, I mean, they've always been pretty heavy with their litigation if they feel like you're kind of encroaching on the things that they do. If there is one thing about Nintendo, they take their IPs very seriously in some ways. I remember one of my friends showing me that there's a video of like, why does Sega not protect Sonic the same way that like Nintendo protects Mario? And it is kind of a thing. It's what is in the lore is that humans are a Pokemon species, not a separate thing, and there is a mention that a kid turned into a Kadabra overnight because he had psychic powers. That's wild. I didn't know that. I stopped playing Pokemon basically after Yellow, and then picked it back up at Diamond, and then stopped again until Sword and Shield, and I didn't beat the last two of those games, so like, the mythos of Pokemon is completely lost on me. So yeah, that's definitely a thing that I was not aware of, and that's pretty cool. Also, I don't know if you know, but in Dragon Ball Daima, which I have not watched, I've only seen bits and bobs of on Twitter, they have introduced, I know nothing of Pokemon was Bakugan Kid, but that does sound kind of interesting. Because Pokemon's been around for so long, they have done some wild things with the lore. That's all I know. But yeah, for Dragon Ball Daima, there was a mention of Dabura's father, the devil that helped Bobbity, that helped Bobbity release Boo. He has a dad. The Grand Myth of Pokemon is very Dark Souls-like. If you don't look for it and don't think about it, it's hidden. That is kind of neat, that there's a lot of like implication and there's a lot of seeds planted. But if you really want to get into it, you've got to search for it. I've always enjoyed that stuff, because that way they don't make it about that mythos. It just kind of exists and floats around in the background for you to kind of discover on your own. Not everything needs clean explanation, you know? Not everything needs to be focused on and emphasized. But yeah, if put stuff in Discord for me, okay, cool. I'll give it a look, because I've got 5 more of these guys to go, and then I can go ahead and give them all a pretty thorough wash. But I can take a minute to look at stuff in the Discord. But yeah, Darbura. Pokemon has some pretty creepy Pokedex entries. It sure does. Darbura has a father, and his name is Abura. So between him and his father, He is Abaru Kadabra, and I love that. Let's see what you got. Oh, you've got one of your little you got one of the Twin Goddess miniature goblins with is that a rocket launcher? Whatever it is, that's wild. Isn't Drifloon the one that just grabs kids? Look at that. That's really freaking cool. I love the colors you use. A squirrel launcher. Okay, I got you. I love the colors that you choose because they're always so vibrant. Like, I don't have my glasses on, so detailing fine shapes that far away from me is kind of difficult, but I can clearly make out like the face and the eyes and the goggles. It's really good. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. Okay. Back to working on these guys, because all I'm doing right now is the metal bits, and once again, metal bits has become very easy with the speed paints. There we go. But yeah, I know I want to get, one moment please, I have to sneeze. Did you see the speed paint on the back with the Kraken topper? I didn't actually. I think I know what you're talking about though, because I have seen those as a way to like sample the speed paints and show what they're going to look like. Has that been super helpful for you? Okay, there we go. I just sneezed and now my brain matter is leaking out of my nose. I'm sorry, guys. It has? Well, that's really cool. I've wanted to do something like that, and I've thought about it, but I've been too lazy to print it out. So at some point, mayhaps, maybe, just not today. Yeah, I think that staining ends up looking pretty good. So I think at the time when I did this, Dark Volt was the only one chilling and watching, but I just used like the bone wash on this, and I did like a really ugly, sloppy wash with it. And honestly, I think it turned out pretty good in terms of color for the banner. The toppers at least help with organizing and finding the paints from a big pile. Exactly. That's another big thing about it, is that the toppers give you a good idea of where the heck it all is. Something I tend to do, and it kind of doesn't work as well as speed paints because the paint comes off it a whole lot easier, is I'll make a little puddle of that paint and I'll dip the top into it, and that way it gives me kind of a quick sample of what it looks like, of what the color looks like, and usually it's pretty accurate. If I need to print off a Twin Goddess model beforehand to get a feel of how the Kraken topper will print, that's a good idea. I used to put glob of paint on the old Citadel pots. Yeah, kind of the same idea. Kind of the same idea of what I'm doing. I'm just taking advantage of the shape of the dropper bottle in my version. So like for McCrag Blue, for example, I just went ahead and, you know, bloop and then boop, and that allowed me to get that. It's decent enough for what it is. I am almost done with the metal, and being almost done with the metal means I will be able to move on to the wash stage soon. And I think that means I will be finished with these guys right around the time that I will need to stop, because this has all been going very quickly. Okay, get the chainmail bits. I will say, I wonder if they purposely made the metallic not quite as metallic, because it's definitely not very shiny, but it does give a pretty good idea that it's supposed to be metal. Okay, let's do that. Oh my goodness, I forgot to do this lad's shield. And I also just washed the metallics in my main paint jar, or my main water jug. God dang it. Okay, let's get some of that. Oh, you can see that the brown is starting to dry out and it's getting real kludgy. Yuck, 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 yuck. But that's okay. Yeah, it's getting so dry it's not even creeping into the crevices anymore. Let's go ahead and add some liquid to this. I was gonna leave it out so I could mix it right in with the black, but it's really starting to seize up. So hopefully that will help it a little bit. And that seems to have done the job. Hang on, I'll send you a link to my Team Glass, my mini factory. Yeah, I've already went over there. I've got a couple minis from them that I'm planning on printing and painting soon. I took one of their female orc models that I think has like a halberd, and I grabbed the Mall Wizard because I think that shit's really funny. So at some point, I'll print and paint those guys, probably on stream. I might end up doing the orc for Orktober, but I will be honest, I am a little self-conscious by how little she's wearing and how she's very clearly meant to be a pinup model. But at the same time, how else better to get over that uneasiness than by painting it on stream? Because there's nothing inherently wrong with it. It's just my own, like, prudishness getting in the way there. But it would be a fun model to paint because it's got a really good pose. The Goblin Witch is a nice mini. Yeah, that's another good one, I think. I don't remember what it looks like, but it wouldn't be too hard for me to look it back up. But yeah, like I said, I've got the Mall Wizard in queue, and I've got, again, I think it's supposed to be an Ogre Warrior, or an Orc Warrior or something. I don't remember. But I might make that my next print job instead of what I've currently got in line. Because I need to do an Orktober mini since I'm the one who told you guys to do one. From what I've heard described, the metal speed paint is a 2-in-1 metal coverage with a shade in the solution that shades the metal in one coat. I mean, based on the use of it, it sounds right. It's definitely a lot more viscous than I thought it would be. And it does a pretty good job of getting both coverage and getting a really nice shadow to it. I will say, as part of that, though, I'm not much of a fan of metallic paints in general. I don't like how runny they are. It's a bit thick for your liking. That's fair. Talking about the Goblin Witch, by the way, not the paint. The paint is remarkably thin. But, yeah, I don't know. I'll have to take a look at the model again. But, I do love the fact that more content creators and more sculptors are doing their best to have more varied body types, because everyone deserves to be seen. And I think it's really cool that we're seeing more than just like the super thin pinup model look across mini design and across character design. You don't mind metallic paints, you just don't like how translucent they are. Yeah, the fact that they're so thin is usually what gets me with them. Okay, it is time for me to move on to... It's the level 99 Succubus mini. I'll have to look at that. It's the time for the Satchel Brown. Let's add some more of that. And then let's go ahead and take... Where did it go? I guess they're calling it Grim Black. And I'm going to go ahead, shake this one up a bit because I haven't done so. And then I'm going to drop that in there, add some flow improver, and then we are going to go to town. And to be completely honest, I don't even think I'm going to use the same brush. I'm going to use a thicker one so I can really speed through this, because it's getting a little bit later, and at some point, I need to go to bed. Take a little bit of this flow improver, which again is just a cheap airbrush flow improver. I don't even remember what brand this is. I think I got it from a local hobby shop. A local craft store like Michael's or something. We're gonna take this brush, which is an old Winsor & Newton. We're gonna wet it up. We're gonna mix it in. I'll have to take a look at it later. I'm starting to run on a little bit of a time crunch now, because I want to get this done as soon as possible. Maybe add some... I think I'll add some airbrush thinner too, because I do need... I actually want this to be very runny this time around. So let's mix that in, and now I have an incredible amount of it. Oh, it's very runny. It's like an oil now. So let's take this lad. Oh, I might have made it too runny. It's barely leaving any pigmentation on these guys. Oh, there it goes. Okay. That's what I'm looking for. But I mean, yeah, you guys have seen I'm pretty active on my own Discord, so it'll get stuff you submit will get seen eventually. It's just a matter of do I have time to look at it at any given time. And given how my job at work is right now, I do have plenty of time. It'll just be some time before I see it. So yeah, you guys can see this, right? You're seeing how well this is just like flowing off. This is exactly what I was hoping for. So this way, they're going to look dirty, they're going to look gungy, they're going to look gross, but they're not going to look exactly like the other models I was just working on. So yeah, apparently adding some airbrush paint thinner is the last thing I really needed. Whoops. To turn this into almost an oil paint or an oil wash. Because this is coming through really smooth. Or whatever the word you want to use. I'm pretty jazzed about this, actually. So let's see. Let's compare. See, like... Actually, no. Once I get to that one, I'll go ahead and compare it. Okay. This one for sure. Same kind of thing. Mix it across. What's kind of happening, and I'm really impressed, is that it's not actually getting a whole lot of surface coverage. It's just chasing itself right into the crevices. And so I'm getting some really good contrast out of this. And again, the mixture for that was a little bit of black speed paint, a little bit of brown speed paint, and then a couple of drops of flow improver and a couple of drops of airbrush thinner. And it's just doing a really, I don't know if you can see that, a really fantastic job of shadowing it. So now I'm getting a bunch of these guys that just, whose shades are really getting emphasized by this. I'm sorry if I'm not making as much sense. I'm just kind of excited that this works so well. Makes me wonder how it'll work as a pin wash. Yeah, I'm gonna have to test that out at some point. Because, I mean, you can see, like, on the tail, it's not leaving a whole lot on the surface of the tail. It's going right into the crevices. It's almost acting like a pin wash without me having to pin it in. So this is something I'm going to try to replicate on, you know, like a character model or something. Because it's just doing such a great job getting coverage without darkening everything down too much. That's phenomenal. Okay, this is the same guy. This is the same model as the one that I brought back out from my previous one. So we're gonna see just how good or bad this looks. Oh my goodness! I touched the top of him, and it just kind of ran down. So let's see if I can do it again. There you go, Dark Volt. Like, look at how little it's actually shading everything else. Like, it's legitimately just running in the crevices. That's really neat. I accidentally made a much lesser version of an oil pin wash. And yeah, as long as I keep kind of slapping it around, it doesn't have a chance to really establish itself on any high spots. Okay. So, there we go. He's obviously a little more vibrant than I would like, but he's very clearly still covered in some kind of gross gunkus. And it's definitely doing a good job of kind of showing off a lot of the contrast between the two. So it's not going to be the same color, and what I can do with these guys is I can kind of mingle them between each other's units, so that way they all kind of combine. That's going to look really good. I almost feel like what I should do is make a vat of this and just make it into like a dip wash, because this is a whole lot better than the oil dip wash that I bought from Army Painter. And it's definitely a whole lot smoother. Because I bought an oil dip wash from Army Painter many years ago, and it was just immediately horrifically tacky. And since it was oil, it was impossible to get off. Like, I actually bought mineral spirits to try and work through it, and it was just, it was miserable. I ruined a whole set of 3D printed assault marines using it. And I think I still got them somewhere, or I might have had the common sense to finally throw them out because I was just so mad with them. And actually, you know what? Given how well this is kind of going on here, I'm actually going to go ahead and switch to a much sloppier brush for this. Because I feel like even using a dry brush and just like spreading it on, it's going to speed up my process without getting a whole lot lost, because it doesn't even smudge. It just kind of gets on there. And that's perfectly fine for the level of detail I'm trying to go for. See? Works fine. I hate the fact that I keep having focus issues. I apologize for the issues with the focus this time. I'm gonna have to watch this back and see what's causing that. It's probably that I'm starting to do this, and the camera's catching it, and it's trying to focus entirely on my hand versus what's going on behind my hand. But yeah, I'm pretty stoked with how this looks. Again, this is just black speed paint, brown speed paint, a little bit of flow improver, and a little bit of airbrush thinner. Okay, come on. There we go. I'm not even doing those hyper aggressive motions anymore. I'm just dragging the what at this point is kind of like a barbecue mop across the entire thing. And yeah, it looks good. Earlier, Dark Volt, you were talking about using like a dark wash as an oil. Have you switched the brush and how you switched the brush and got so much faster? I took off my weighted clothing. I know, right? It kind of feels like it because, again, this is all a learning process, right? And what I'm learning right now is that I don't need to be hyper aggressive with my painting anymore, because I can just take this mop and be like blah 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 blah, and it does a great job of filling in the crevices for me. And I guess the other part to this is it's all going to naturally run down, so even if I do glob it on somewhere, it's going to find its way back out. Okay, so yeah. That was actually really cool. Let me see if I can do that without messing it up. So, you see his face? Yeah. Yeah, it keeps doing it. Every time I bring the brush, it's like it's trying to get back out of focus. And yeah, all of this is just running straight off him. It's getting in the crevices, and otherwise it's running right off. I can't wait to come back tomorrow and see how this looks. Experimenting, guys. I feel like wow. I feel like I should make a video about how this is basically a cheap pin wash, or a cheap oil wash. Because I don't think I've seen anyone do this with speed paints. And this is pretty cool. It's also giving back so much, yeah, especially because the tail has a shallow, like, flex into it. Doing this is really, come on, please show. There we go. Oh man, it lost it again. It is doing a lot to bring back the individual ribs on the tail, right? Okay. Okay. I am not enjoying the fact that the camera keeps deciding to autofocus on whatever it's deciding to autofocus on. I think next month you'll focus on getting some supplies like thinner and biostrip. I've thought about getting biostrip because I've heard it's really good, but I'm also scared to use it because it just looks like, isn't that the one that's just like a big jar? And you just kind of soak the mini in the jar. I will say, the next time I do this, I think instead of mixing the brown and the black, or I might just do more brown than black, because I am not liking the fact that it basically looks like I'm motor oiling them. And I wanted them to be kind of dirty. It's a dip jar, but you can also brush it on the mini. Ah, fair enough. Oh, there's the succubus. Hey there, succubus. You are a pretty, like, thick lady. Okay, give me a second. I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can snap the camera back to some semblance of consistency, because this is driving me nuts. There we go. Hopefully that'll do it. Okay, now stay. Oh, look at that. Now that you can actually see it, Dark Volt, look at that. Look what that just did. Let's do it again on this side. Whoa. And you can see it running down and just really getting into the crevices there. Yeah, this stuff works great. I think my biggest problem now is making sure I hit everything, because it works so well, I'm like, okay, I'm done. But what's going to happen is when it dries, there's going to be these very obvious spots that I missed. So working on getting full coverage is going to be my next thing. Mop. 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 I do see that when it blobs, just touching it again with the brush is soaking it up to be used in other spots. Yeah, that's the other thing about it, is that it's still staying in the crevices, but every time I kind of whack it again with the brush, it pulls out just enough that I can kind of spread it around. And you can see I'm not being hyper aggressive with my brush work here. I'm just kind of like, tonight is apparently the night where I make a bunch of sounds. But yeah, this ended up being a fairly successful test tonight, and I'm pretty jazzed about that, because, oh yeah, look at that. I don't want to say I wanted to like this stuff, but I definitely didn't want to discount it, because so many people seem to use it so creatively in a billion different ways, and it felt like I should learn how to use this, because it's just another tool, right? It's another resource for me to be a better painter. So by me just being like, I don't like it, I don't use it, it felt like I was limiting my potential as a painter. So this was very fun to find out that no, there are ways that I can turn this into the way I like to do things. Unfortunately, my timing was not, or my foresight was not as good as I thought it was going to be, because I'm actually running out of it quicker than I'm running out of minis to paint. So I'm hoping that with these last little bits, I can get as much as I need and paint up the last bits of these guys. I mean, you can see it's starting to become more brown than it is whatever, and that's because I'm running low. And I don't want to make a whole new batch because I've only got 2 left. Fine, I'll make a small one. Okay. Go ahead and go into the satchel brown, just a drop. And a little bit of the black, just a drop. And I think this time I'm just going to do the airbrush thinner. I'd rather have less than I need, mix it more, than have too much and have it dry up. Yeah, my thing is it's all about the waste aspect. I don't like wasting resources, but I suppose with this paint, I'm not exactly like using half the bottle, so it's not killing me to have a little bit more of it just kind of mopped up and thrown away. Okay, this time I'm just using the thinner. I'm not using the flow improver. And yeah, I'm kind of seeing a difference here. Like, it's still working, but it's definitely not doing what flow improver does, which is helping it flow better. So the flow improver is kind of essential to make it really get into those crevices. Because right now, it's doing stuff, don't get me wrong, it's just not doing all the stuff that it was doing. You know what I mean? Because you saw it, it was just like running free everywhere. With this, you can see it trying to, but not being anywhere near as successful. So the flow improver is a crucial part of the mixture. Otherwise, it just kind of pulls a little bit, which is not what we want. Though I am on the last one, which is why I was loath to make more. So I added a little bit of water this time, and the water seems to have not done anything for me. It's literally just watered it down. What I've seen used for washes before flow improver was to drop a dish soap to break the water tension. Yeah, that's, I've seen that too. My buddy actually made his own custom wash doing that because he had read that that was a good suggestion. And I tried to make my own wash, but it ended up being really crappy and also smelling terribly. So I don't use it very often anymore. Okay, that's the last of them. But yeah, it had some dish soap, it had some flow improver, it had some medium. It had, I think it even had like glue, which was supposed to act as the sealant, because it was PVA glue. It had a lot of water. It ended up being a really bad combination of things. It smelled to high heaven, and I don't use it anymore. But yeah, dish soap is a great diffuser that kind of breaks it up and makes it so it doesn't want to bead. Okay. Go ahead and get rid of some of that. Go ahead and get rid of the last of this wash, which has left a really gross membrane that seems to have solidified on this. Ew. Okay. Well, what I actually think I'm going to use for this is going to be some IPA, because that's disgusting. IPA will do a good job dissolving this shit. Goodbye. 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 You have a jar of PVA and black house paint mixed when I paint foam and cardboard? Yeah, because doesn't the PVA like seal it so that it stays attached to the foam and cardboard a little better? Okay, yeah, this is working. See, that's what I need to do. If I decide to actually go forward with the Abaddon Gilliman diorama, I'm going to need to find some way to make a good base for it, because the case that I have is supposed to hold a football, so it's got like a little dais in the middle, and I don't know how to get rid of that, so I feel like I've got to build up around it. Or I can have like a place for them to stand. But I don't know. I have plastic bits glued onto it. I leave it for spray painting after the PVA dried. And all of that makes a lot of sense. It all makes a whole lot of sense to me. Okay, so I put some IPA in some of these wells because I've got a lot of paint dried up in them. And now I'm just stirring it, and it's creating some really gnarly colors. But what I think is going to happen next is I'm going to have to get some paper towels and just kind of extract this from the wells, because this paintbrush is too wet to actually grab most of it. Sorry, I'm being a child and I'm having fun with this now. Okay, so I still got some tissues in here. I can use these. Put that in, pull that out. There we go. It's one tissue. This is another tissue. Yeah, I was literally just like swirling around the gross paint concoction with a tissue and staring at it like a child. I mean, that's kind of what I love about this hobby, though. Like you just said, it brings the joy of childhood back. Adulthood sucks for a lot of reasons. And being able to just sit down and not have to worry about all the suck that is adulthood is really nice. So any chance I get to kind of play with that, I will. Okie dokie. Gonna go ahead. No, you're still. There we go. Gonna go ahead and do this. Put that away.
Now, the other problem is that because I was being fast and loose with the dry brushing, I've got like a whole bunch of it on my fingies now, which is fine. It'll all go away eventually because I'm just going to wash my hands, but that was not an intended side effect of this. So the rats are done. The next thing I can do with them is seal them and then base them. But that's it. They're done. They're good. Fantastic. Now I can move on to the bigger, cool ones. I've got these Jezzails I gotta paint. I got these cool rat ogres. You find that wet wipes are good for removing paint from skin? Yeah, that is true. That should work pretty well. I need to buy some wet wipes. I used to be an idiot and I used to just spray my hands with IPA and try and get it off that way, but that seems like a great way to destroy my skin. That being said though, it's about time for me to go to bed. It's like 10 to 10, so thank you for joining me tonight. That was a lot of fun, being stupid and finishing these guys up. Next time I stream, unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to be able to stream it all this weekend because I am working both Saturday and Sunday. So the next time I'm probably going to stream is going to be next Tuesday. But hopefully the next time I stream, I can work a little bit more on these rats and actually do like a good job painting them up. And once I get them all painted at some point, I'll figure out how I want to base them. Either way, I suppose I will see you later. If anyone is watching the VOD, I will see y'all later. Thank you for joining me and have a great rest of your evening or the great rest of your day. I'll see you next Tuesday. Okay? Bye-bye.